the Death Squad Commander, a figure many of us called Death Star Commander, even if he was never called that by Kenner and never was even a commander on the Death Star. In late 1980, with the release of The Empire Strikes Back, his name was mysteriously changed from Death Squad Commander to Star Destroyer Commander. Did he get a promotion? Over the years of collecting Star Wars, I have heard many stories on why this change took place. From Kenner didn't want to use the word death on a toy for kids, to Jewish groups were upset of the name Death Squad due to its ties with the Holocaust and the Nazi Party, to even hearing people say it just sounded better, as Death Squad was never used in Star Wars. Whenever I heard these two theories of why the name was changed, something just didn't seem right to me. First, let's look at the word death. Was Kenner opposed to using that on a toy? Well, Kenner did release the Death Star playset, but that was a short-release toy and didn't carry on to the Empire Strikes Back line. And they did release a few Death Star-related games, but again, all this was before 1980 when the name change to the Death Squad Commander took place. Maybe in 1980 they just didn't want to use the word death anymore. Seemed possible. Until I remembered, Kenner did release a Death Star playset in the Micro Collection in 1981. So it seems clear to me Kenner had no issue with using the word death on a toy. What about the upset Jewish community and their outcry of the name Death Squad? Well, they were upset about it. They wasn't very vocal about it, as I've searched old news articles and I never saw anything about it at all. But this theory did seem more likely. But I searched everything I could in the Star Wars collecting books that I have, checked website after website, and I could find no official information that said Lucasfilm or Kenner changed the name due to outcries from the Jewish community. If the name Death Squad was bad due to its ties with the Nazi Party, why didn't they change Stormtrooper, who also had his name tied to the Nazi Party? They could have just called them Troopers, or even in 1980 with the release of the Stormtrooper Hoth gear, they could have just called it a Hoth Trooper. So it seems to me Kenner and Lucasfilm, and I guess the Jewish community, wasn't upset by the name Death Squad either. So that left me with a puzzling question. Why did the name get changed right at the release of the Empire Strikes Back line? At first glance, it seems the name change took place when the Empire Strikes Back logo started to appear on the Star Wars cards. However, this isn't true, as the first Series 1 and 2 figures were released on Empire Strikes Back logo cards known as the 21 back. No Empire Strikes Back figures were released on the 21 back. The Death Squad Commander does appear on this 21 back Empire Strikes Back logo card, so as you can see the name wasn't changed until the second release of Empire Strikes Back cards. As Kenner was getting ready for the floodgates to open for the new Empire Strikes Back toys, they had an issue with one toy in its name, and it wasn't the Death Squad Commander. It was a ship or playset. In the film, Darth Vader's Star Destroyer flagship is called the Executor. But Kenner said they didn't want to use that name on a commercial or on a box. So it does seem at the time Kenner was more worried about names than they were before. But would they care that much about an action figure that had already been on the market for 2 years and one that wouldn't be in commercials for the Empire Strikes Back line? And that's when I came up with a third theory on why the name was changed, and one that I believe is the most likely cause. With no Death Star in the sequel, and no Death Star playset for sale in the Empire Strikes Back line, it seems likely Kenner would want at least one figure that really connected with this new playset/ship. So if kids bought this playset, they would want this figure to go with it. Stormtroopers were fun for any kid, but let's face it, the Death Squad Commander was boring and had little screen time in the film. Gary Advertising came up with the name for the Vader Star Destroyer, simply calling it Darth Vader Star Destroyer. It must have taken weeks to come up with that. But who was going to command this playset? Well, taking one boring figure, renaming it, could boost some sales. With the official Empire Strikes Back release, the Death Squad Commander became the Star Destroyer Commander. And not only was his name changed, but he got his face on the Star Destroyer playset box. When it came with action figures seen on the toy boxes, Kenner knew that they wanted to promote the newer figures on the newer boxes. But they had to use some of the older figures, of course. There was the returning fan favorite Darth Vader and the Stormtrooper. But there were some newer figures that fit with the Empire Strikes Back release. Those were the new bounty hunters, Boba, Bosk, and IG. But someone ended up right there in the middle of the box, right on the center, even if he was upside down. It was no longer the Death Squad Commander, but now the Star Destroyer Commander. I believe this name was changed that it fit with Empire Strikes Back more, and it could help boost some sales tying the figure with the Star Destroyer playset. If you had the Star Destroyer playset, you had to buy the Commander to put in the ship. And I know what you're saying. Junkman, why wouldn't they just put the Imperial Commander on the box and have kids buy it? After all, it was a new figure and would tie in good with the playset. And that's a really good theory also. If it wasn't for the fact that the Imperial Commander was not released in the first series of Empire Strikes Back figures. He wasn't added until the 41 back, making his official release 1981. So they needed a figure in 1980 to tie in with the playset. And what better figure would have been better to tie in with this playset? Again, there's no official reason of why this name change took place. It could be because they didn't want to use the word death. It could be they were getting pushback from the Jewish community due to the words Death Squad. But I can't find any official reason to back up those two theories. Now, my theory might be just as wacky as the others, but I think from a promotional standpoint, it makes more sense. Well, that's a look at the name change from Death Squad Commander to Star Destroyer Commander. And I have to ask, did you ever call this guy a Death Star Commander? I know I did as a kid. If you did, let me know in the comments below. Well, I want to thank you for watching. As always, thumbs up if you like my content. Subscribe to the channel. We'll talk again soon.
Hey, Junkman channel popping though.
Thank you, sir, for that unsolicited testimony.